task completed. Children frequently begin a piece of work with enthusiasm, but becoming perplexed or wearied with it, they wish to change and take hold of something new. Thus they may take hold of several things, meet with a little discouragement, and give them up, and so they pass from one thing to another, perfecting nothing. Parents should not allow the love of change to control their children. They should not be so much engaged with other things that they will have no time to patiently discipline the developing minds. A few words of encouragement or a little help at the right time may carry them over their trouble and discouragement, and the satisfaction they will derive from seeing the task completed that they undertook will stimulate them to greater exertion. Many children, for want of words of encouragement and a little assistance in their efforts, become disheartened and change from one thing to another. And they carry this sad defect with them in mature life. They fail to make success of anything they engage in, for they have not been taught to persevere under discouraging circumstances. Thus, the entire lifetime of many proves a failure because they did not have correct discipline when young. The education received in childhood and youth affects their entire business career and mature life, and their religious experience bears a corresponding stamp. Habits of indolence are carried into later life. Children who have been petted and waited upon always expected, and if their expectations are not met, they are disappointed and discouraged. This same disposition will be seen through their whole lives. They will be helpless, leaning upon others for aid, expecting others to favor them and yield to them. And if they are opposed, even after they have grown to manhood and womanhood, they think themselves abused. And thus they worry their way through the world, hardly able to bear their own weight, often murmuring and fretting because everything does not suit them. Develop habits of thoroughness and dispatch. From the mother, the children are to learn habits of neatness, thoroughness, and dispatch. To allow a child to take an hour or two in doing a piece of work that could easily be done in half an hour is to allow it to form dilatory habits. Habits of industry and thoroughness will be an untold blessing to the youth in the larger school of life upon which they must enter as they grow older. Counsel, especially for girls. Another defect that has caused me much uneasiness and trouble is the habit some girls have of letting their tongues run, wasting precious time and talking of worthless things. While girls give their attention to talk, their work drags behind. These matters have been looked upon as little things unworthy of notice. Many are deceived as to what constitutes a little thing. Little things have an important relation to the great whole. God does not regard the infinitely little things that have to do with the welfare of the human family. Importance of little things. Never underrate the importance of little things. Little things supply the actual discipline of life. It is by them that the soul is trained that it may grow into the likeness of Christ or bear the likeness of evil. God help us to cultivate habits of thought, word, look, and action that will testify to all about us that we have been with Jesus and learned of him. Make mistakes a stepping stone. Let the child and the youth be taught that every mistake, every fault, every difficulty conquered becomes a stepping stone to better and higher things. It is through such experiences that all who have ever made life worth the living have achieved success. Chapter 24, Economy and Thrift. Eliminate extravagant habits. Teach your children that God has a claim upon all they possess and that nothing can ever cancel this claim. Chapter 23, Self-Denial, Unselfishness, and Thoughtfulness. Lessons that are needed in every home. In every home there should be taught lessons of self-denial. Fathers and mothers, teach your children to economize. Encourage them to save their pennies for missionary work. Christ is our example. For our sake he became poor, that we through his poverty might be made rich. He taught that all should come together in love and unity, to work as he worked, to sacrifice as he sacrificed, to love as the children of God. Learn the lesson of self-denial and teach it to your children. All that can be saved by self-denial is needed now in the work to be done. The suffering must be relieved, the naked clothed, the hungry fed. The truth for this time must be told to those who know it not. Sacrifice should become habitual. By precept and example, teach self-denial, economy, large-heartedness, and self-reliance. Everyone who has a true character will be qualified to cope with difficulties and will be prompt in following a "Thus saith the Lord." Men are not prepared to understand their obligation to God until they have learned in Christ's school to wear his yoke of restraint and obedience. Sacrifice is the very beginning of our work in advancing the truth and in establishing institutions. It is an essential part of education. Sacrifice must become habitual in all our character building in this life, if we would have a building not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. A self-denial box. Children are to be educated to deny themselves. At one time when I was speaking in Nashville, the Lord gave me light on this matter. It flashed upon me with great force that in every home there should be a self-denial box, and that into this box the children should be taught to put their pennies they would otherwise spend for candy and other unnecessary things. You will find that as the children place their pennies in these boxes, they will gain a great blessing. Every member of the family, from the oldest to the youngest, should practice self-denial. Children should not be the center of attraction. Children of 2 to 4 years of age should not be encouraged to think that they must have everything that they ask for. Parents should teach them lessons of self-denial and never treat them in such a way as to make them think they are the center and that everything revolves about them. Many children have inherited selfishness from their parents, but parents should seek to uproot every fiber of this evil tendency from their natures. Christ gave many reproofs to those who were covetous and selfish. Parents should seek on the first exhibition of selfish traits of character, whether in their presence or when in association with other children, to restrain and uproot these traits from the character of their children. Some parents give much time and attention to amusing their children, but children should be trained to amuse themselves, to exercise their own ingenuity and skill. Thus they will learn to be content with very simple pleasures. They should be taught to bear bravely their little disappointments and trials. Instead of calling attention to every trifling pain or hurt, divert their minds, teach them to pass lightly over little annoyances or discomforts. The grace of self-forgetfulness. One of the characteristics that should be especially cherished and cultivated in every child is that self-forgetfulness which imparts to the life such an unconscious grace. Of all the excellences of character, this is one of the most beautiful, and for every true life work, it is one of the qualifications most essential. Study how to teach the children to be thoughtful of others. The youth should be early accustomed to submission, self-denial, and regard for others' happiness. They should be taught to subdue the hasty temper, to withhold the passionate word, to manifest unvarying kindness, courtesy, and self-control. How carefully should parents manage their children in order to counteract every inclination to selfishness? They should constantly suggest ways by which their children may become thoughtful for others and learn to do things for their mothers and fathers who are doing everything for them. Chapter 25, Simplicity. Educate in natural simplicity. The little ones should be educated. Chapter 24, Economy and Thrift. Eliminate extravagant habits. Teach your children that God has a claim upon all they possess and that nothing can ever cancel this claim. All they have is theirs only in trust to prove whether they will be obedient. Money is a needed treasure. Let it not be lavished upon those who do not need it. Someone needs your willing gifts. If you have extravagant habits, cut them away from the life as soon as possible. Unless you do this, you will be bankrupt for eternity. And habits of economy, industry, and sobriety are, even in this world, a better portion for you and your children than a rich dowry. Instruct the children in economy. The light given me now by the Lord is that we are to be careful not to spend our precious time and money unwisely. Many things may suit our fancy, but we are to guard against the expenditure of money for that which is not bread. We shall need much means to advance the work decidedly in our cities. Everyone is to have a part to act in the Lord's work. Parents are to instruct their children in lessons of economy, in order that the younger members of the flock may learn to share the responsibilities of supporting the cause of God at this time. Love not expressed by extravagance. Practice economy in your homes. By many idols are cherished and worshipped. Put away your idols. Give up your selfish pleasure. Do not, I beg of you, absorb means in embellishing your houses, for it is God's money, and it will be required of you again. Parents, for Christ's sake, do not use the Lord's money to please the fancies of your children. Do not teach them to seek after style and ostentation in order to obtain an influence in the world. Do not educate your children to think that your love for them must be expressed by indulging their pride, their extravagance, their love of display. There is no time now to invent ways of using money. Your inventive faculties are to be put to the stretch to see how you can economize. Christ's lesson in economy. There's a lesson for us in the feeding of the 5,000, a lesson that has a special application to those times when we are placed in trying circumstances and are compelled to practice close economy. Having worked the miracle and satisfied the hunger of the multitude, Christ was careful that the food that remained should not be wasted. He said to the disciples, "Gather up the fragments that remain, that nothing be lost." Though he had all the resources of heaven at his command, he would not suffer even a morsel of bread to be wasted. Discard nothing useful. Nothing that can be utilized should be thrown away. This will require wisdom and forethought and constant care. It has been presented to me that the inability to save in little things is one reason why so many families suffer for lack of the necessities of life. They never learn to economize. There is much work to be done for the Master, and men who might today be occupying high positions in connection with the work of God have failed because they never learned to economize. They did not limit their wants to their incomes when they entered the work, and their spendthrift habits proved the ruin of their usefulness in the cause. How to teach the right use of money. Let every youth and every child be taught not merely to solve imaginary problems, but to keep an accurate account of his own income and outgoes. Let him learn the right use of money by using it. Whether supplied by their parents or by their own earnings, let boys and girls learn to select and purchase their own clothing, their books, and other necessities. And by keeping an account of their expenses, they will learn, as they could learn in no other way, the value and the use of money. The value of keeping accounts. When very young, children should be educated to read, to write, to understand figures, to keep their own accounts. They may go forward, advancing step by step in this knowledge. Let children be taught to keep an account. This will enable them to be accurate. The spendthrift boy will be the spendthrift man. The vain, selfish, self-caring girl will be the same kind of woman. We are to remember there are other youth for whom we are accountable. If we train our children to correct habits, through them we shall be able to influence others. Section 7, Developing Christian Qualities. Chapter 26, Courtesy and Reserve. Courtesy begins in the home. Parents, teach your children how to conduct themselves in the home. Chapter 25, Simplicity. Educate in natural simplicity. The little ones should be educated in childlike simplicity. They should be trained to be content with the small, helpful duties and the pleasures and experiences natural to their years. Childhood answers to the blade in the parable, and the blade has a beauty peculiarly its own. Children should not be forced into a precocious maturity, but as long as possible should retain the freshness and grace of their early years. The more quiet and simple the life of the child, the more free from artificial excitement, and the more in harmony with nature, the more favorable it is to physical and mental vigor and to spiritual strength. Parents should, by their example, encourage the formation of habits of simplicity and draw their children away from an artificial to a natural life. Unaffected children are most attractive. Those children are most attractive who are natural and unaffected. It is not wise to give children special notice. Vanity should not be encouraged by praising their looks, their words, or their actions, nor should they be dressed in an expensive and showy manner. This encourages pride in them and awakes envy in the hearts of their companions. Teach the children that the true adorning is not outward. Whose adorning let it not be that outward adorning of plaiting the hair and of wearing of gold or of putting on of apparel, but let it be the hidden man of the heart in that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God of great price. 1 Peter 3, and 4. The secret of true charm. Girls should be taught that the true charm of womanliness is not alone in beauty of form or feature, nor in the possession of accomplishments, but in a meek and quiet spirit, in patience, generosity, kindness, and a willingness to do and suffer for others. They should be taught to work, to study, to some purpose, to live for some object, to trust in God and fear Him and respect their parents. Then as they advance in years, they will grow more pure-minded, self-reliant, and beloved. It will be impossible to degrade such a woman. She will escape the temptations and trials that have been the ruin of so many. Seeds of vanity. In many families, the seeds of vanity and selfishness are sown in the hearts of the children almost during babyhood. Their cunning little sayings and doings are commented upon and praised in their presence and repeated with exaggerations to others. The little ones take note of this and swell with self-importance. They presume to interrupt conversations and become forward and impudent. Flattery and indulgence foster their vanity and willfulness until the youngest, not infrequently, rules the whole family, father and mother included. The disposition formed by this sort of training cannot be laid aside as the child matures to riper judgment. It grows with his growth, and what might have appeared cunning in the baby becomes contemptible and wicked in the man or woman. They seek to rule over their associates, and if they refuse to yield to their wishes, they consider themselves aggrieved and insulted. This is because they have been indulged to their injury in youth, instead of being taught the self-denial necessary to bear the hardships and toils of life. Do not foster love of praise. Children need appreciation, sympathy, and encouragement, but care should be taken not to foster in them a love of praise. The parent or teacher who keeps in view the true ideal of character and the possibilities of achievement cannot cherish or encourage self-sufficiency. He will not encourage in the youth the desire or effort to display their ability or proficiency. He who looks higher than himself will be humble, yet he will possess a dignity that is not abashed or disconcerted by outward display or human greatness. Encourage simplicity in diet and dress. Parents have a sacred duty to perform in teaching their children to help bear the burdens of the home, to be content with plain and simple food and neat and inexpensive dress. Oh, that mothers and fathers would realize their responsibility and accountability before God. What a change would take place in society. Children would not be spoiled by being praised and petted or made vain by indulgence in dress. Teach simplicity and trust. We should teach our children lessons in simplicity and trust. We should teach them to love and fear and obey their Creator. In all the plans and purposes of life, His glory should be held paramount. His love should be the mainspring of every action. Christ, our example, Jesus, our Redeemer, walked the earth with the dignity of a king, yet He was meek and lowly of heart. He was a light and blessing in every home because He carried cheerfulness, hope, and courage with Him. Oh, that we could be satisfied with less heart longings, less strivings for things difficult to obtain, wherewith to beautify our homes, while that which God values above jewels, the meek and quiet spirit, is not cherished. The grace of simplicity, meekness, and true affection would make a paradise of the humblest home. It is better to endure cheerfully every inconvenience than to part with peace and contentment.
That.
Chapter 27, cheerfulness and thankfulness. Let a sweet influence. Chapter 26, courtesy and reserve. Courtesy begins in the home. Parents, teach your children how to conduct themselves in the home with true politeness. Educate them to show kindness and tenderness to one another. Allow no selfishness to live in the heart or find room in the home. The youth who grew up careless and rude in words and manners reveal the character of their home training. Parents have not realized the importance of their stewardship, and the harvest they have sown, they have also reaped. Principles of heaven to pervade. The principles of heaven are to be brought into the government of the home. Every child is to be taught to be polite, compassionate, loving, pitiful, courteous, tender-hearted. When all are members of the royal family, there will be true politeness in the home life. Each member of the family will seek to make it pleasant for every other member. Teach it by precept and example. Children, as well as those of older years, are exposed to temptations, and the older members of the family should give them, by precept and example, lessons in courtesy, cheerfulness, affection, and in the faithful discharge of their daily duties. Respect for weary feet nearing their rest. And God has especially joined tender respect toward the aged. He says, the hoary head is a crown of glory, if it be found in the way of righteousness. Proverbs 16:31. It tells of battles fought and victories gained, of burdens borne and temptations resisted. It tells of weary feet nearing their rest, of places soon to be vacant. Help the children to think of this, and they will smooth the path of the aged by their courtesy and respect, and will bring grace and beauty into their young lives as they heed the command to rise up before the hoary head and honor the face of the old man. Leviticus 19:32. Teach reserve and modesty. Pride, self-esteem, and boldness are marked characteristics of the children of this day, and they are the curse of the age. The most sacred lessons of modesty and humility are to be taught to the children both at home and in the Sabbath school. Will you, to whom I now address these words, take heed to the instruction given you? Let the youth take warning. Let them not be forward in conversation, but be modest and retiring. Let them be quick to hear things that will profit the soul, and be slow to speak, unless it be to represent Jesus and to witness to the truth. Show humility of mind by modesty of demeanor. A guard to virtue. Cherish the precious, priceless gem of modesty. This will guard virtue. I feel impelled by the Spirit of the Lord to urge my sisters who profess godliness to cherish modesty of deportment and a becoming reserve. I have inquired, when will the youthful sisters act with propriety? I know there will be no decided change for the better until parents feel the importance of greater carefulness in educating their children correctly. Teach them to act with reserve and modesty. True graces, a child's truest graces, consist in modesty and obedience, in attentive ears to hear the words of direction, in willing feet and hands to walk and work in the path of duty. And a child's true goodness will bring its own reward even in this life. Chapter 28, truthfulness. Chapter 27, cheerfulness and thankfulness. Let a sweet influence pervade the home. Above all things else, let parents surround their children with an atmosphere of cheerfulness, courtesy, and love. A home where love dwells and where it is expressed in look, in words, in acts, is a place where angels delight to manifest their presence. Parents, let the sunshine of love, cheerfulness, and happy contentment enter your own hearts, and let its sweet, cheering influence pervade your home. Manifest a kindly, forbearing spirit and encourage the same in your children, cultivating all the graces that will brighten the home life. The atmosphere thus created will be to the children what air and sunshine are to the vegetable world, promoting health and vigor of mind and body. Let the countenance be cheerful. There is nothing gloomy in the religion of Jesus. While all lightness, trifling, and jesting, which the apostle says are not convenient, are to be studiously avoided, there is a sweet rest and peace in Jesus that will be expressed in the countenance. Christians will not be mournful, depressed, and despairing. They will be sober-minded, yet they will show to the world a cheerfulness which only grace can impart. Children are attracted by a cheerful, sunny demeanor. Show them kindness and courtesy, and they will manifest the same spirit toward you and toward one another. Educate the soul to cheerfulness, to thankfulness, and the expression of gratitude to God for the great love wherewith He has loved us. Christian cheerfulness is the very beauty of holiness. Speak pleasant, cheery words. Pleasant, cheery words cost no more than unpleasant, moody words. Do you dislike to have harsh words spoken to you? Remember that when you speak such words, others feel the sharp sting. Parents, bring practical godliness into the home. Angels are not attracted to a home where discord reigns. Educate your children to speak words that will bring sunshine and joy. Encourage a happy frame of mind. If there is anyone who should be continually grateful, it is the Christian. If there is anyone who enjoys happiness even in this life, it is the faithful follower of Jesus Christ. It is the duty of God's children to be cheerful. They should encourage a happy frame of mind. God cannot be glorified by His children living continually under a cloud and casting a shadow wherever they go. The Christian should cast sunshine instead of a shadow. He will bear a cheerful countenance. Children hate the gloom of clouds and sadness. Their hearts respond to brightness, to cheerfulness, to love. Smile, parents, smile. Some parents and some teachers as well seem to forget that they themselves were once children. They are dignified, cold, and unsympathetic. Their faces habitually wear a solemn, reproving expression. Childish mirth or waywardness, the restless activity of the young life, finds no excuse in their eyes. Trifling misdemeanors are treated as grave sins. Such discipline is not Christ-like. Children thus trained fear their parents or teachers, but do not love them. They do not confide to them their childish experiences. Some of the most valuable qualities of mind and heart are chilled to death as a tender plant before the wintry blast. Smile, parents, smile, teachers. If your heart is sad, let not your face reveal the fact. Let the sunshine from a loving, grateful heart light up the countenance. Unbend from your iron dignity. Adapt yourselves to the children's needs and make them love you. You must win their heart. A fitting prayer. Make your work pleasant with songs of praise. If you would have a clean record in the books of heaven, never fret or scold. Let your daily prayer be, Lord, teach me to do my best. Teach me how to do better work. Give me energy and cheerfulness. Bring Christ into all that you do. Then your lives will be filled with brightness and thanksgiving. Let us do our best, moving forward cheerfully in the service of the Lord with our hearts filled with His joy. Teach children to be grateful. Thou shalt rejoice in every good thing that the Lord thy God hath given thee. Thanksgiving and praise should be expressed to God for temporal blessings and for whatever comforts He bestows upon us. God would have every family that He is preparing to inhabit the eternal mansions above give glory to Him for the rich treasures of His grace. Were children in the home life educated and trained to be grateful to the giver of all good things, we would see an element of heavenly grace manifest in our families. Cheerfulness would be seen in the home life, and coming from such homes, the youth would bring a spirit of respect and reverence with them into the schoolroom and into the church. There would be an attendance in the sanctuary where God meets with His people, a reverence for all the ordinances of His worship, and grateful praise and thanksgiving would be offered for all the gifts of His providence. If the word of the Lord were now as strictly carried out as it was when enjoined upon ancient Israel, fathers and mothers would give to their children an example that would be of the highest value. Every temporal blessing would be received with gratitude, and every spiritual blessing become doubly precious because the perception of each member of the household had become sanctified by the word of truth. The Lord Jesus is very near to those who thus appreciate his gracious gifts, tracing all their good things back to the benevolent, loving, caretaking God, and recognizing him as the great fountain of all comfort and consolation, the inexhaustible source of grace. Chapter 29, Honesty and Integrity. Honesty to be Chapter 28, Truthfulness. Let parents be model of truthfulness. Parents and teachers be true to God. Let your life be free from deceitful practices. Let no guile be found in your lips. However disagreeable it may be to you at the time, let your ways, your words, and your works show uprightness in the sight of a holy God. Oh, the effect of the first lesson in deceit is terrible. Shall any who claim to be sons and daughters of God give themselves up to deceitful practices and lying? Never let your children have the semblance of an excuse for saying, "Mother does not tell the truth. Father does not tell the truth." When you are tried in the heavenly court, shall the record be made against your name, a deceiver? Shall your offspring be perverted by the example of those who ought to guide them in the way of truth? Instead of this, shall not the converting power of God enter the hearts of mothers and fathers? Shall not the Holy Spirit of God be allowed to make its mark upon their children? It cannot be expected that children will be altogether guileless, but there is danger that through unwise management, parents will destroy the frankness which should characterize child experience. By word and action, parents should do all in their power to preserve artless simplicity. As children advance in years, parents should not give the slightest occasion for the sowing of that seed which will develop into deceit and falsehood and mature into untrustworthy habits. Never prevaricate. Parents should be models of truthfulness, for this is the daily lesson to be impressed upon the heart of the child. Undeviating principles should govern parents in all the affairs of life, especially in the education and training of their children. Even a child is known by his doings, whether his work be pure and whether it be right. A mother who lacks discernment and who does not follow the guidance of the Lord may educate her children to be deceivers and hypocrites. The traits of character thus cherished may become so persistent that to lie will be as natural as to breathe. Pretense will be taken for sincerity and reality. Parents never prevaricate, never tell an untruth in precept or in example. If you want your child to be truthful yourself. Be straight and undeviating. Even a slight prevarication should not be allowed. Because mothers are accustomed to prevaricate and be untruthful, the child follows her example. Untruthfulness is encouraged by harsh words. Do not become impatient with your children when they err. When you correct them, do not speak abruptly and harshly. This confuses them, making them afraid to tell the truth. Chapter 30, Self-Reliance and Sense of Honor. Train every child to be self-reliant. So far as possible, every child should be trained to self-reliance. By calling Chapter 29, Honesty and Integrity. Honesty to be practiced and taught. It is essential that honesty be practiced in all the details of the mother's life, and it is important in the training of children to teach the young girls as well as boys never to prevaricate or to deceive in the least. The standard God requires. God wants men in his service under his banner to be strictly honest, unimpeachable in character, that their tongue shall not utter a semblance of untruth. The tongue must be true, the eyes must be true, the actions wholly and entirely such as God can command. We are living in the sight of a holy God who solemnly declares, "I know thy works." The divine eye is ever upon us. We cannot cover one act of unjust deal from God. The witness of God to our every action is a truth which but few realize. Those who realize their dependence upon God will feel that they must be honest with their fellow men, and above all, they must be honest with God, from whom come all the blessings of life. The evasion of the positive commands of God concerning tithes and offerings is registered in the books of heaven as robbery toward Him. Honest weights and measures. An honest man, according to Christ's measurement, is one who will manifest unbending integrity. Deceitful weights and false balances, with which many seek to advance their interests in the world, are abominations in the sight of God. Firm integrity shines forth as gold amid the dross and rubbish of the world. Deceit, falsehood, and unfaithfulness may be glossed over and hidden from the eyes of man, but not from the eyes of God. The angels of God, who watch the development of character and weigh moral worth, record in the books of heaven these minor transactions which reveal character. Honest with time and money. Men are wanted whose sense of justice, even in the smallest matters, will not allow them to make an entry of their time that is not minute and correct. The men who will realize that they are handling means that belong to God, and who would not unjustly appropriate 1 cent to their own use. Men who will be just as faithful and exact, careful and diligent in their labor in the absence of their employer as in his presence, proving by their faithfulness that they are not merely men-pleasers, eye-servants, but are conscientious, faithful, true workmen, doing right, not for human praise, but because they love and choose the right from a high sense of their obligation to God. Just what he wants others to think he is. In every business transaction, a Christian will be just what he wants his brethren to think he is. His course of action is guided by underlying principles. He does not scheme, therefore he has nothing to conceal, nothing to gloss over. He may be criticized, he may be tested, but his unbending integrity will shine forth like pure gold. He is a blessing to all connected with him, for his word is trustworthy. He is a man who will not take advantage of his neighbor. He is a friend and benefactor to all, and his fellow men put confidence in his counsel. A truly honest man will never take advantage of weakness and incompetency in order to fill his own purse. Allow no deviation from rigid honesty. In every business transaction, be rigidly honest, however tempted, and never deceive or prevaricate in the least matter. At times, a natural impulse may bring temptations to diverge from the straightforward path of honesty, but do not vary 1 hair's breadth. If in any matter you make a statement to what you will do and afterward find that you have favored others to your own loss, do not vary a hair's breadth from principle. Carry out your agreement. By seeking to change your plans, you would show that you could not be depended on. And should you draw back in little transactions, you would draw back in larger ones. Under such circumstances, some are tempted to deceive, saying, "I was not understood. My words have been taken to be more than I intended." The fact is, they meant just what they said, but lost the good impulse and then wanted to draw back from their agreement lest it prove a loss to them. The Lord requires us to do justice, to love mercy and truth and righteousness. Maintain strict principles. In all the details of life, the strictest principles of honesty are to be maintained. Deviation from perfect fairness in business deal may appear as a small thing in the estimation of some, but our Savior did not thus regard it. His words on this point are plain and explicit. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. A man who will overreach his neighbor on a small scale will overreach in a larger scale if the temptation is brought to bear upon him. A false representation in a small matter is as much dishonesty in the sight of God as falsity in a larger matter. Honesty should stamp every action of our lives. Heavenly angels examine the work that is put into our hands, and where there has been a departure from the principle of truth, wanting is written in the records. Section 8. The paramount task, character development. Chapter 31, Importance of Character. The only treasure taken from this world. A character formed according to the divine likeness is the only treasure. Chapter 30, Self-reliance and sense of honor. Train every child to be self-reliant. So far as possible, every child should be trained to self-reliance. By calling into exercise the various faculties, he will learn where he is strongest and in what he is deficient. A wise instructor will give special attention to the development of the weaker traits, that the child may form a well-balanced, harmonious character. Too much ease will develop weaklings. If parents, while they live, would assist their children to help themselves, it would be better than to leave them a large amount of debt. Children who are left to rely principally upon their own exertions make better men and women and are better fitted for practical life than those children who have depended upon their father's estate.